all of Texas, man. Welcome to the Sales Podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great, Wes. Thanks for the kind intro and, stoking the fire as we kick off football season here.
Oh, man. So I'm so weird, man, if you haven't figured that out. So I grew up in Baton Rouge. But I played for Air Force. And then I went to Texas A&M during the 93 12-0 season. Well, I think it was 12-1. Lost to Notre Dame in the Cotton Bowl. So it's like, I'm saying go Tigers, aim high, gig 'em. I don't know. It just depends on the day, man. The way LSU opened, it may be a gig 'em year. You know what I'm saying?
You're conflicted in a lot of ways, but you got a lot of good options to draw on too.
I am clear though. If Air Force plays LSU or A&M, I'm pulling for Air Force.
Yeah.
If LSU plays A&M, I'm pulling for LSU. But other than that, I cheer for all of them.
keeps you well. I was just say you're well diversified there.
It's a good weekend when all three win, but that's kind of rare.
Yeah.
Oh well. So what the heck, man? Demandbase, Chief Sales Officer. Is that a real thing? I keep seeing CRO, CMO. What's all these chiefs, man? Back in the day, you were just a VP of sales. Now, sales finally has a seat at the table. Is that what you're telling me?
I guess so. It's funny. I kind of laugh with you here, Wes, and I do believe like the title game is an interesting one. But I do think maybe it probably does speak volumes for maybe, our field and area of expertise being kind of elevated. And I think that's actually a passion of mine. I think that's, I have a running rant that sales is kind of business's dirty little secret. And a lot of folks, get drafted into this life. They don't know how they got here. And so, look, I think it is it's the lifeblood of every business. It really is, what dictates the success of the company. More CEOs, I think, come from the sales ranks than any other, field. And so it's good to hear that there is, that focus. But I do think, I've seen Chief Sales Officer, Chief Customer Officer, Chief Revenue Officer, lots of different names for, folks who own the growth and development of the customer base there.
Yeah. But you're pretty new in the role, right? Just this year?
I am. Yeah. So I've been here about 7 months now. So just getting my bearing and getting settled here.
Are you happy with the challenges the economy is facing as you step into this role? Or you're like, holy smokes, what did I get myself into?
Happy is a good word to use there. I was going to say, and we tend to be very sadistic people, folks that choose this line of work. I have a running rant on this one, Wes, that I could go into. I do think timing is what it is, and I do think that, a lot of the best companies and the best leaders are forged in down economies and down times. And so I think that's, you have to remember that when going through these things. We had a good run for a while there too. And so I do feel like, it was bound to happen here. And you've been around for a while doing this. I think this is my second or third, kind of recessionary moment to go through. And I do feel like, my running rant to the team on this is that, will make us better. It will, kind of shape us and give us the opportunity to kind of challenge and stretch ourselves in new ways. In fact, someone introduced to me the concept of type 1 fun and type 2 fun. I don't know if you've ever heard this here, but
nope.
It was exactly what I had been saying all along, but I was like, the times that I went through these recessionary moments, some of those teams that I was on, are still some of my best friends today. They're the ones that I would pick up the phone and they would answer in a moment's notice. Right. So not only is it shaping skills, is it shaping who we are, but it's building these great foundations. And so someone actually was like, that's the type 1 and type 2 fun, scenario. Type 1 is, the stuff that we expect to be fun, like, jumping out of an airplane or, riding our bike on a long race or doing things that we do, and activities that we do for kind of regular enjoyment. Type 2 fun is the stuff that you go through and you don't realize it at the time. But it ends up being fun. It tends to be the more lasting things in our memory there. It's probably, a lot to your harkening back to your military background, like probably some of the challenges you went through and some of the experience and exposure you had, right? Like, when you were going through it, it wasn't fun and you probably wouldn't have called it fun. But looking back on it, it takes a kind of a nostalgic spot in our memory, which I thought was interesting. And so anyways, back to your question about am I having fun? I guess I am. we'll see what the next, kind of two or three quarters hold. But I am enjoying building this team right now.
So when you were brought on, like were the expectations still high in the economy? Like, did you have to manage expectations? Had the downturn already kind of hit? And they said, "Hey, help us navigate, these troubled waters." Like, what was the scenario as you were brought on?
Yeah, no, I mean, when I came on, when I was interviewing, we were probably still in denial about the recession, and just thinking it was a little bit of a slowdown, but the signs were there. I came on really in Q1 of this year. And I do feel like the beginnings of this really started in kind of Q3, Q4 of last year is when we started to sense and see it and feel it. And so, when I was coming into it, I knew that there was probably something, amiss, that it was going to take a different style of leadership. I think actually, as I was interviewing, a lot of recruiters, were asking for more wartime CROs. They were like, who's been through these types of scenarios, who's been through these situations, not just, kind of the good times, but have also kind of been through some of the bad times. So I think the world was prepping for it. It's been longer than I expected. I think everything, everything I've been reading said that, by the end of the summer, we'd be, hopefully seeing some signs of life and better things happening. And it still feels a little shaky and uncertain out there. And so I think that's just the challenge of the toughness. We don't know where the bottom is quite yet. And hopefully we're nearing it.
I don't think we are. But I just read this morning on LinkedIn, they're talking about mortgages are at a 27-year low. And it's like, people may think, well, I'm not selling, I don't care. But it's like everything has an effect.
Yeah.
All the people that are not refinancing means mortgage brokers, are not getting commission, which means they're not buying new cars. I mean, it's just, people don't understand, the velocity of money and everything else. But, and it's like, people are like, you're a pessimist. Like, no, I'm a realist. I was a meteorologist. I went to A&M to study meteorology. It's like, if I say it's going to rain, bring an umbrella. I'm not in a bad mood. I'm just reading what the charts are saying, man. Like, and if you don't listen to it and you don't bring an umbrella, then you become a pessimist. I'm just saying, So what's working now? Like, if you're talking to prospects that are uncertain, right? Because uncertainty is always the terrible thing. In all of my sales training, it's like I help my sales training clients just get the truth. Yes is fine. Hearing no early is fine. These maybes, like, that's what kills us. So like, if your prospects are kind of on the fence, oh, I hope it gets better, maybe it gets better. How do they make decisions, and how do you get them to make a decision and jump in with you when things are uncertain?
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good advice. And so much you said resonated with me. So I was smiling and nodding along with you on this, but I do agree. Like, the indicators are there that it's going to be tough. And I think you're right. Yeses are good. Nos are good. Maybes will kill you has always been a mantra that's been in my mind as well. Look, I think it's really like gonna cause sales teams to get more focused on obviously the core fundamentals, right? Like understanding their customers, getting close to their customers, understanding their pains and acknowledging the pains, like the things that like seem common sense, but I think we got away from them in probably the times of exuberance there. And so I do feel like diving into that, like if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. And so I think we really have to be sharpening our acumen around financial selling. We have to sharpen our acumen around ROI. And really, like, what is the true business value? Like, and I think understanding too, like, if there is, if you're at parity to cost, like I've seen this a lot where people are like, yeah, if we matched the competitor's cost, would you go with us? And I've seen us even lose deals on that where it's like, no, the indecision, kicks in. It's like, I'm already with them, right? It's going to cost me, time, money to change. My job's in jeopardy. I'm under-resourced. I'll just stick to the status quo, right? And so, like a lot of times it's going to come down to, it's going to be coming down to cost justification, which doesn't mean always you have to be the lowest priced, as Wes, and probably, talk to your, clients about as well. But it is like, okay, we have to be fairly priced and we have to be uniquely positioned from an ROI standpoint. We have to be able to help them be effective and really speak to them in their language.
Yeah. How are you reaching people today? Like, what's working? Is the cold calls still work? I mean, are people going back to the office? Do they forward the office number to their cell phone, and do they answer?
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think this is a narrative that I beat the drum with our outbounding and SDR teams with, because I think it's a constantly moving target right now. And I do think, this is a topic that I've been passionate about, because I think in the last few years, everybody went distributed, everybody went home. Their office lines were no longer their, primary way to contact them. We didn't maybe have up-to-date contact information. And so we probably got a little less reluctant to pick up the phone. And we saw a lot of overuse of email and a lot of automations. And I think that's, again, like probably a sign of the times of it was really easy to use and overuse probably technology in some of these cases. And so I've been unwinding a lot of our automations right now and in favor of more unique touches that are more personalized, that show that you've spent the time, that you understand them. I'm actually, really in, driving my teams to make more outbounding, because I do think it's got to be part of the balance that we bring. And I think we've kind of engineered one way so far that it needs to probably come back into the mix a little bit. But it's all about breaking through that like signal to noise ratio. And I think right now the signal, is heavily weighted towards, a lot of the things that were easy, the automated responses, the automated touch points. I know you've had a lot of guests talking about like the benefits of AI and Chat GTP, but I think like the AI written content still to this day, I think underperforms the human touch, right? The one that's been, carefully crafted by you. And so try to resist some of the, I would say, urge to go overly automated and really go back to what matters, which is specialized, personalized, focused touch points here.
Yeah. I always tell the story because I stumbled across this years ago, and I used to have a dash and then a red phone icon in my LinkedIn name. So the first name said West dash red phone Schaefer. And I kept the dash because I learned how far and wide LinkedIn and other systems either share our information or people scrape it. So every day I get emails and LinkedIn messages, hi, West dash. And when I had the red icon, the phone in there, it would be like a question mark because the icon the emoji or whatever wouldn't render properly. So it's a great way for me to just sort, I'm just everything West dash, delete. Like, sorry, even if there's maybe I missed something good, but the one good thing out of those 4,647,000 messages, okay, the time I saved, is a good ROI. So I tell people all the time, put a little something, put a dash, and you'll see. And once in a blue moon, actually, and a guy responded, because over the weekend I had some times going through emails and it was like the second or third automated pitch. And I responded with some flowery language, and basically said, if you will treat me like a human and send me a real offer, I'll probably respond. And to his credit, he did. Most people just cower and run away.
Yeah.
Oh, been caught. It's like, it's okay. I sell sales and marketing automation software. I'm all for it. But personalize it somewhere in there. We forget that there's humans on the other end of the screen. So I love hearing you unwinding some technology. It's like, I promise you that's going to help you. You may have already seen the benefits. I don't know how far along you are on it, but have you noticed an improvement?
We have, and it's interesting. I mean, I think this is just, I think a lot of folks might be in this pattern. And so maybe if there's any advice I can give to other listeners of your podcast here, I think that we've fallen into ruts as well of kind of doing the same things over and over again, expecting a different outcome. Right. And I think that when times get tough, it's sometimes easy to just retreat and not think about those things, and unwind some of these things. And so I remember actually just, partially because I was new to Demandbase and coming in, it was a great time for me just to inspect everything I expected. And so, looking at a lot of our automations and looking at a lot of our cadence, just seeing how they were being so poorly responded to, yet folks felt like they were being successful doing these things over and over again. It's like, okay, if we're not getting the response rate, why bother, right? And so I think it's just important to kind of, make sure you're thinking about those things collectively and, talking about them. We do, and in essence also, our company was built for this AI revolution, and that we have a lot of the data, we have a lot of the insights, we can see, what people are, searching for, when they are your products. And so like being able to use those technologies, but then insert the human, I think that's the key here. Like, I think the ones that, I think where I've seen people go overboard on this AI revolution is they think about like the, pattern of like, I can replace my SDR organization with all these things. And I would say like the humans are going to still probably be a vital component here. It's just about harnessing those technologies in the right ways. But again, making sure that when they reach out to Wes, they feel that they're reaching out to Wes, not Wes Dash with the red phone. And they're bringing up things that really matter to you and are able to ring through to you, or else they'll just end up in that pile of all those messages there.
How did your people respond? Because, they had a system, even though it wasn't necessarily working great. Now it's like, you want me to what? Whoa, who's this new guy coming in? I have to sell now. Hold on a second.
Yeah. It's a work in progress. And I think anytime there's change, as you and I both know, like there's oftentimes resistance to it. Right. But I think being able to show results quickly, I think is key. And so, being able to tie those things back, I think has been, my best, kind of medicine for helping people kind of move through this change curve, faster, is being able to show them like, with these great tools that we have, with our outreach sequencing, we can see that like these subtle changes and like narrowing the focus and getting more targeted and being, prescriptive in the words we choose here and how we reach out to people, all of a sudden has this massive uplift. Right. And so it's just kind of, it's good to be able to show people the way in some of these things, and then show them that they have they can see results quickly, and then it empowers them to start making some more of these moves as well.
Yeah, I'm going through that right now. I'm unwinding my tech stack. I'm moving from HubSpot. Been with them for 9 years. Moving my websites off of them, and going through things like, oh my gosh, I'm finding old expired partner programs, links that weren't working. Redid my CRM quiz, which I haven't done in a while. Took off some, put new ones on. Finding, broken links, just like, but it's hard, right? It's not something you're just going to do all the time, but every now and then, like just going through the exercise of picking up and moving, even if you don't move, it's like, whoa, there were a lot of skeletons in that closet.
Yeah. Makes you want to close the door sometimes. But I think like this is back to that commentary of like, the tough times make us better, right? And so like, I think you're right. If things were going great, you might have ignored those broken links for a lot longer, right? If the business was, kind of jumping in the boat, as they say in fishing metaphors here. And so, it's important to have those kind of like, moments of like, okay, let's go back and reset. And I, as a career sales team kind of builder, grower, and scaler, like this is not too uncommon for what I do. Like whenever I come in, it's usually like evaluate where the company is in their maturity, look at their tech stack, like go through it. I termed a problem for this where it was like the problem was the island of misfit tools, but it was like the tools that we just kind of let sprawl over time, right? We just kept buying them. We let different leaders come in and buy them, and then we didn't turn off the ones that we had in place. Sometimes I've even seen it where you can do an audit and there'll be two tools that do the exact same thing. And it's like, well, okay, why is this?
hold that thought.
Oh,
this is the first time ever my first grandson making an appearance on the Sales Podcast, and you get to see him.
That's amazing. The future SDR of tomorrow there. I'm honored and privileged to be a part of.
My son just came over and handed him over so they could go to the gym. My wife walks in all secret, like, come on in.
That's amazing, Wes. It's a family podcast. It's
I've had my kids on, lawnmower. Like, we just keep going, man. Oh yeah, it's you're talking about like a wartime CRO, right? We forget, or maybe we just never knew. The old adage, buy when there's blood in the streets. But the second part of that is, even if it's your own blood,
yeah,
people forget that part. And so like in a tough environment, like are you trying to grab market share? Like when COVID hit, my advice to everybody was forget whatever you used to do. Forget my previous advice, because I'm like selling value, raise your prices. But I was like, slash your prices, retain your customers, go get new ones. because this won't last, but people are panicking. So stay in business, go get the market share. And I think it served those that listen. I think it served them well. You have a similar approach? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I think it's good advice. And these are two like incidents that like came within a 4 to 5 year period of each other. Right. And so it is pretty interesting. And I had started a new role actually when the pandemic happened. Like I was hired to launch North America for an Australia based startup here. And, I flew over in the last like normal week in the world. Like when I was in the air coming back from Australia and onboarding, the whole world shifted. And so I remember even that moment, Wes, where I thought like, gosh, like, do I have a job and do I need a team? And, the great thing is, once the dust settled, everybody, really kind of regained momentum and some people accelerated, which was really, really a wild thing. And I do think even in that moment, we had just launched a new business on top of a really great, well-oiled machine. And so this was a company called Canva, and it was taking their, B2C arm into B2B. And it was a really neat time because I would actually say, like, I remember doing my first forecast meeting with them, just as an example. And, we had just hired a new AE team. We had just brought a new product to market. We were just, making all this big splash about coming to North America. And then the world shifted. And so, I remember in that time actually doing a forecast meeting where like it was pretty down and out for those AEs. We really didn't know what the future held, how long this would be, and at that time it was like, okay, let's rethink and do something just completely off the wall and crazy. And, it was a great moment of, for us in that time, because we thought, okay, we've got a team that we put in place. How do we keep them in motion? How do we get them, doing what they do? And let's use this as a chance to not just be stunned and shocked here, like, let's get out there and go. And so we created this, unique incentive plan where we got them to basically give free trials to a bunch of customers for 3 quarters. And so I remember actually like after walking out of this AE meeting in the beginning, the AEs were like, one, questioning their life choices, in that moment when they had to sell a product in the toughest time, what they thought was going to be the toughest time to sell, and flipping it around and saying like, let's use this as a market share, kind of grab opportunity. Let's get our product in as many hands as possible. Let's show up with heart, which I think was a really neat thing that we did in that moment too, Wes. Because I think a lot of folks were stunned on like what to do, how to do it, because everybody's like, everybody's reacting differently to this. We don't know how their business is, being impacted, right? If you're Qantas, you just laid off 20,000 employees, right? So it's hard to go sell to Qantas because you don't seem like you have any heart or understand like what they're going through. And so, it was great to be able to say, hey, we have this free product we want to give you because we know, things are getting tough out there and we want to help you. And so it was a really cool pivot moment to build this pipeline that launched our product and, got us into this great spot here. And so I'd say like that unique moment, was all about like, how do we sell differently? How do we take, take some of the advantages we have in our favor and use them to our best advantage here? How do we show up in the right way and be genuine and grab market share? Whereas this one right now, I would say like, it's shifted completely again, that I love to kind of tell those stories in conjunction. Because I would say in, 3-4 years, here we are back at it again. And I would say like, it's all about like holding on to customers, with like, the utmost precision here. Like, I think this is your time to really lean into the customers that bet on you and have, been with you and make sure you're supporting them, while trying to add to them as possible, as much as possible. But I would say like, that's the new growth is holding on to the customers you have and making them successful while trying to grow on top of that. And so, each time will be, these are the two kind of playbooks that I used in like the last 3-4 years. Next year might be a whole new set of playbooks, right? As we continue to see more of this unfold and we get a better sense for how long this is going to be.
How do you handle a customer maybe uses this as an excuse to renegotiate an existing contract? Because sometimes it is necessary. Sometimes they're just being an opportunist. How do you ascertain and get to the truth on that?
It's a tough one because I'm sure everybody is, scrutinizing every bit of, kind of product that they have in hands right now. In fact, I had actually heard that, more CFOs killed, more deals in August than ever in like in the last 2 years combined. But I think it has been all about like, how do we hold on to capital? How do we slow pay, no pay? How do we decrease our expenditures? Right. And so I think like the important thing, like I would say, you want to take everybody at their face value, but obviously everybody's going to be negotiating. I feel like the CFO has been inserted in so many negotiations. I've actually put my CFO to work, and I would say that's one thing that I would say that you should be doing too, is like, for all your best customers, you can't do it for everybody, but I think like the ones that are bringing their CFOs in, align more CFO to CFO conversations. Like, I think it actually is a powerful thing when they can both sit at the table and say, like, we want to support each other. We've been together for a while. Like, I have these different pain points, you've got these different pain points, and like coming up with a collective win-win. And so I think like nobody better to sniff this out than, one of their own. Right. And I think it actually is a great way to match and align executives. I think for the broader scale, I mean, we've got, over 1,500 clients here. So I think like we can't do that for everybody. But I tend to like it, go back to usage and adoption, right? I think that's something we should all be looking at, is like how, well is the product being used and adopted? And I think even like in advance of the negotiation, Wes, like that should be the new metric that we're all dialed into, because if they're not using it and adopting it in the right ways, then it's going to be, you're going to be in the reactive mode of, renewal, renegotiation. But look, it's hard to argue when someone's getting a lot of value out of it, especially if you have that great ROI talk track to support your product. That's the best way to at least arm your force to be able to have these conversations, navigate them with heart. And look, though, there's going to be some bad actors in it. I think that's something we just got to be prepared for.
Yeah. So for those that may not be familiar with Demandbase, what's the elevator pitch?
Yeah, like it is sales magic. So I would say, like, let me just start there. And I don't just, work here. I was a customer 2 times over before coming on board. And, I think we used it actually at my, I had 2 companies prior. I implemented it with my CMO. It is a great tool to do, where our starts was with account-based, marketing here. And so it is about how do you target, the customers that you want to go after with the right relevant messaging. So it's all about having very focused advertising. We also have the ability to see the intent. So you can actually tell to see who's been looking for your product, who's searching your competitor. You can actually get a sense for, who you should be reaching out to before they come to you. And so I think it's the old adage of, how do you know, how do you show up at the right time with the right buyer and the right message, with the right, at the right time. And I think we can really help and enable that. We've also built, through a number of our acquisitions, a lot more aspects to our platform that actually make us a true go-to-market platform that sales and marketing can use together. So I would say, like, think of us as kind of your NOC or console for, running your sales and marketing efforts. And I do think that's probably one of the more powerful things, is like the way that we drive, sales and marketing alignment and effectiveness. I think there's always that story of, sales and marketing can be cats and dogs, especially in hard times too, Wes. I'm sure you've seen and sensed this, but I think that relationship can have some tension and strain in it for differing reasons. But it really gets intensified when everybody's under the gun, when everybody's fearing for their job or worried about it. And so, having this one single source of the truth where you can see what SDRs are doing and what, demand gen marketers are doing, and we can attribute it back to a customer and understand, how they're interacting with all the messaging that we're putting out there with them, and how all the touch points that we're aligning towards them, like, really is helpful, especially when it also correlates back to, winning more customers here.
Who's an ideal prospect? Like, what's the company size?
Yeah, we work with companies of all sizes, and we are, kind of known, with, I would say, all the brands that matter, are on our platform. So that's the great thing is, a lot of our AI is built on, the power of our customer base. And so we have some of the biggest brands in the world and e-commerce platforms out there using it. And so, if you're a big enterprise brand, you should be excited to use us, because you're going to be, aligned with some of the biggest and best out there and get the same world-class experience you'd come to know and expect. But if you're also, I can see a mid-market to a smaller SMB, maybe, you get to leverage the benefit and the power of their scale and the learning and algorithmic models that we've built off of this for our intent scoring. So I think there is, a lot of benefit for that. I would say we probably don't work with companies much smaller than like probably 200 million in ARR. There is, some investments in kind of technical stack and team and like, sales operations, revenue operations, or marketing operations resources to be able to manage this. So I'd say, for smaller companies, we're probably not the best fit, but I think we work with, companies from 200 million up to, tens of billions, which is really kind of a great place to play.
Are your new customers typically replacing something, or do they have a problem and you just solve a problem that they couldn't fix before?
Yeah. Look, this has been it's a good question. We've got a mix of both. I would say the larger majority of folks coming to us right now are net new to this type of technology, or just figuring out and embracing this technology. It's been around for a long time. And I think the bigger brands have been able to utilize it and take advantage of it, but it's becoming more prevalent for, like, I would say mid-sized companies to use it more actively. And so, like, maybe on the bigger side, folks are either, already with us and consuming more of it, and consuming some of the new aspects that we've built through our product teams here. Or if you're a mid-market or SMB, you're newer to kind of this technology, embracing it. And, there are a few other smaller competitors in this space too that have started to kind of come up, I would say, through the ranks. And so there's some replacement there, but I would say largely it is a net new motion for folks to kind of come to us here and learn how to use this in new ways. It's a great way to bring teams together and align them and use them in a more effective way, which is what everybody cares about more so than ever right now. And so I think that's, the beauty of our value proposition.
Yeah. Cool. Do you want folks going just to the homepage? Do you want people reaching out to you on LinkedIn? What do you want listeners to do?
Yeah, look, I love any and all engagement that we could get here. We'd love to help as many clients as possible. The website is going to be probably your most active place to get help here. We have obviously a team of folks there that are ready to run demos and take people through the technology and help them understand kind of the power that we can unlock together. And so that would probably be the more streamlined way, but feel free to LinkedIn message me, connect with me. I'll do my best to stay on top of it, but I would say, would happily, be a point of reference as well too, for many of our, prospective clients or folks coming on board. As I mentioned, I've implemented it twice, so I feel like I've got a great viewpoint on not only how to help me, but how I can help others by using our platform.
Yeah, that's a good testimonial, man. I mean, using it twice, so you've seen it from the inside out, and still like what they're doing. So that's good in and of itself.
It is. Yeah, at this age and phase of my career, it's fun to align with teams that, like, you can help, and that what their product drives towards, you believe in. And so when this one came available, it obviously was one that piqued my interest based on my past, and also seeing where the world's going. I think actually before I took this job, Chat AI really hadn't become as big of a thing, right? It was still, I think it was released in November and I joined in February, so it was still probably in kind of buzzword land at that time. But as we've seen, I think there's certain companies that have been really poised to take advantage of this, and this is one that I think can really help sellers and marketers be more effective.
Very cool. All right, man. Well, John Eitel, Demandbase Chief CSO, right? Chief Sales Officer.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right. I mean, you went to a pretty good school, so I mean, you can't be all bad, and you're hiring the right people. So I mean, you're on a good, stay on that path. Okay.
I appreciate it, Wes. This has been a lot of fun, and I hope we get to continue the dialogue here. Thanks for the ribbing. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely watch the Johnny Manziel documentary.
Well, I've heard about it. See some highlights. What a disaster, huh? Oh.
It's almost like, I mean, we lived it and I can't believe it, but I would say, yes, it's interesting to relive it again as someone who, manages people's heads and tries to help, sellers, navigate, I would say, lots of chaos and commotion. That kid navigated a lot of chaos and commotion, and, was really in a magical moment in time. The first year they moved into the SEC, him winning the Heisman.
Oh, they beat Alabama. I was like, yes, beat Alabama.
Incredible.
That dude, he was Johnny Football. But you talk about usage and adoption. I did see that highlight. They're like, he didn't log in one time to study the playbook. Not once. Like, how you got to be not right in the head to be handed millions of dollars like that and just say, I'm not going to work. Like, who does that?
It's amazing. I mean, you almost don't believe it. I think it's almost like if you when you watch it, come back to me and let me know what you think. But it's a magical moment in time, because actually, that wasn't just the only highlight there. He does talk about, he's like, this is how much game footage I watched and how much time I prepared. But the coaches were just like, let him do him. And he, had so much God-given talent that he could make those magical plays happen.
No, I'm sorry. And whoever hired him, or drafted him, whatever, he was a disaster wherever he went. I mean, that little flash, but it's like, it's not worth it. I use sports analogies all the time. I talk about Nick Saban all the time, because he revived LSU, starting in 99. And then, I was so crushed when he left, but that guy, to his credit, it's mostly his way or the highway, but he saw how college football changed. He went from that power I, and, now they're a great quarterback school, and he drafted some kids, recruited some kids, and built some programs around them. But then it's my way or the highway, because he had so many good ones. I think he's smart. I tell salespeople all the time, companies, like, you are always recruiting. You may not always be hiring, but you better always be recruiting. And I use college football, because in a dream world, they're only going to have their best people for 5 years, and they're only going to play 4 of those 5 years. But with today's money, you're going to have kids perform for you for the best. Are probably going to play 2 years. Mm-hmm. And so, because I'll ask people, like, whatever, who won last year? Georgia won, right? Georgia won 2023.
Yep.
Right. So I'll ask people, depending on the season of the year, right? Say, when did Georgia win the 2023, national championship? And they're like, well, of course, January 16th or 2023, whatever day. No. I explained college football, right? They identify talent as a sophomore.
Yeah.
They can, like, send some letters and do a little outreach. Then as a junior, they can really talk to them. Then it's radio silent during the season. And then it's really on once they finish the season. So they have 5th-year seniors that were identified 8 years before January of 2023. So you got to go back to 2015, maybe even 2014, because you can go back to the beginning of the season.
Yep.
So 8.5 years before that game, somebody identified a 5th-year senior. So it's like, you better have an assistant, because your top people are the ones that are going to leave. It's like the dogs. You can't get rid of the dogs. The Eagles, they're soaring, man. Everybody wants, name your guy, LeBron or whatever, Yep. Everybody wants the top performers, and they're going to leave at the worst time for you. So you better have some bench strength. That's probably a topic for a whole nother podcast.
I was going to say, yeah, I'll let you leave on that note, but I would say that's exactly it. I think you always have to be recruiting, and I think you're spot on. And, like, the stat I love from that Georgia victory was the entire line went into the NFL draft. That doesn't happen by accident, right? That does not happen overnight.
The offensive line,
entire line, yes, in the NFL.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's awesome.
So just to give you some more metrics to your stat there, I was going to say, like, that didn't happen randomly. That's not by chance. And look, they'll be good again this year because they've built the bench strength to be able to weather the turning over of an entire offensive line there. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right, John, we'll keep Austin weird, man.
Thanks so much, Wes. This has been a blast.
Not too weird.